Aaron, obviously a disappointing result at Tonbridge on Saturday. What's the mood like being in the camp? How have you reflected on things?
What we had to make sure was that we didn't have a hangover from the game. We're very disappointed with the result and definitely elements of the performance. We had a plan going there, and that sort of went out the window for a 20-minute spell in the second half, and we looked all at sea really. So the shape sort of went a bit. So it was disappointing. Credit to Tonbridge, like I said on the day, but we can't constantly say that. Credit the opposition, they did well, and we've got to make sure that we're getting those plaudits from an opposition manager saying, "Oh, credit to the to Torquay, they were good," and that's why we've got to make sure that we get that back. Disappointed with our certain elements of our shape and our sort of reaction to a transition. We had majority share of the ball, good amount of the ball possession wise, but both boxes were where we come undone. So the players, like I said, we've moved on quick. We had to move on quick, and we've put a full stop to it Monday morning. And then, to be fair to them, they've trained ever so hard this week. You know, they've really trained hard and worked hard. Doesn't guarantee you a victory at all, but they're definitely putting in the effort. And it's important now that we make sure that we show up Saturday because there's a good crowd, a good occasion, a very good occasion, and one we're really grateful for. But it's making sure we've got to focus on the football and do our part, play our part.
I think I used probably at least one cliche too many in the last press call, so I'll try not to repeat that again today. But obviously we've talked about after the game about the fine margins of that chance for Aaron Jarvis in the first half. If he sticks that one away, obviously it could be 1-0 up. But also confidence, obviously at this moment, I mean, it's likely to be fragile at times where everything's going around the club. And obviously those 3 goals in the space of 10 minutes possibly illustrate what are you able to in training to actually try and help the players with that, because it can't be easy for them at the moment.
Well, for instance, the chance you're talking about with Jarvis is a great footballer. He's put a lot of them away, so we know that he scores most of them rather than not. So it's not a major concern in that. It's good that we're getting those opportunities, and it's the time of season where you do get odd results. You get bottom teams beating top teams, and they're really competitive games because both ends of the table, people fight for different things, and they mean so much. So when you're 10 games in, 12 games into a season, everyone's still got ambitions and of where they can be, so there's a little bit more freedom, whereas now it's a lot more tighter. I'm going to use one of your cliches, and it's a business end of the season, so you do find yourself with very competitive games, and we've got to make sure that we come out on top of those competitive games, but we've also got a plan and a shape and an organisation to do that. And then if we are have those elements to our game, that will give the players confidence, because they'll know they'll have reassurance from each other that they're going to work hard for each other and be in the right positions at the right time. So if one does go forward, then the other one's covering around, and vice versa. So simple things like that, but making sure those are really spot on to make sure we're very hard to beat, because we're a little bit easy to beat the last 2 games for me, especially in moments in the game. There's been spells of collective goals, so that mindset has to change. If we do go 1-0 down, then don't concede 2, 3 and 4. Make sure that we stay in the game, and we can counteract that, because we had a great reaction to the first goal against Tonbridge, but then the second and third and fourth followed very, very quickly each other. And we're in the ascendancy to try and push to make it 1-1, and then once that second goal came in, we sort of went a little bit. So that mindset is really important going into these last 8 games, and that's why we put a full stop to it, to make sure the players have freed themselves up. So worked hard this week, and hopefully we can go into the game with a good organisation, a good work rate, and a bit of confidence, knowing that we know we can beat any team on any given day. And these results happen where bottom beats top, vice versa. So we've got to make sure we focus on what we can do and stop any sort of threats that Hampton have, because they do have a few.
Now you'll be fully aware that it hasn't always been the case all season that you've been able to call upon some of your more experienced heads, but some of those have come back recently, the likes of Kevin Dawson. One of those also is Asa Hall, who's also been supporting you on the touchline. Obviously, if he's going to be considered for first team duties, does that cause any issues at all?
It doesn't cause any issues. It's great to have Asa back. We're really happy to have Asa back available. He was on the bench Saturday, and he's looking sharp in training. So it's really good to have some of those experienced heads like Kevin, like Tom Lapsley, obviously back available, and now Asa. So it's really good to have those experienced players back in amongst the squad. But that does present myself with one or two problems, i.e. on the coaching side, because that leaves me. I've got good support in the staff, and Kenny's fantastic with the goalkeepers and the rest of the staff, Louis and Regan and Russell and Josh all support me, as well as Niall support me fantastically. But I did need somebody else to come and help me, which what we've done is I've moved to bring Robbie from the youth, Robbie Herrera from the youth up into the first team to help myself during the week coaching. So the players aren't just hearing my voice constantly. So they've got another experienced coach alongside me, and Robbie's going to be fantastic because he's very vastly experienced, knows the division, knows the league. He's got an understanding of the squad because he's with head of the youth. He still has an eye on what the first team are doing, and he's at our home games, so he's seen a bit of us. But at the same time, he's got fresh eyes and a really experienced sounding board, and really importantly, he's got the club at heart. He's been a part of this club for numerous different roles over a long period of time, and I've known Robbie for a long time, so our relationship is strong. He's a very good coach, and I'm really glad to have him on board, and also glad to have Asa back available as a player in the squad. And Asa's still helping me out, definitely, and a real good sounding board for me. But he's also a very good captain, and he can fulfil that role as well. But it gives us all another experienced coach to help us out during the week on the match day, alongside what he's doing with the youth, because he's still obviously running the youth as well. So please have Robbie on board.
Like I say, a fresh voice in training paths, but you've both represented the club with distinction as players, and so also you'll be only too aware of the rivalry between the traditional rivalry, I should say, between Exeter, Plymouth and Torquay. But this weekend, obviously, all three fan bases are going to be coming together, with Plymouth and Exeter having no fixtures due to the international break. That's a really positive thing for Devon as a county. We need the three teams, don't we?
Oh, fantastic! Yeah, it's brilliant that we're able to label it Devon Day, and the amount of support we've had from Plymouth and Exeter is unbelievable, and we thank them ever so much. And while I'm not naive to think that there'll be a few Gresham and Pilgrims shouting and supporting Hampton and Richmond, I also do know that they understand the bigger picture in this situation. They understand the importance of having three professional teams in Devon, and they understand the importance of the rivalry and the history that this club has with both those two Devon clubs, and they want to keep that. So I really appreciate the support financially and in person that they're showing to the football club, and they know that the bigger picture is that they want a survival for one of their rivals, and we really appreciate that. It's very humbling and very exciting to have them along. It would be very weird seeing a Plymouth fan, if they do support Torquay or Exeter for that matter, but hopefully we can get them on side early, and we can have majority of the supporters in the stadium cheering for Torquay on Saturday.
You mustn't forget, of course, as always, we have got opponents in Hampton and Richmond, very good opponents, as they certainly came out on top in the reverse fixture earlier on this season. What are you expecting to see from them on Saturday? What do you see as being their key threats? They're
a good side. They're a well organised and hard-working team. They've got few weaknesses. They're got some good players amongst their ranks, that's for sure, and we've got to be aware of. We've watched them Tuesday night when they were at home to Welling, and we know all about them, so there's nothing that's going to surprise us on the day. But Mel's got a good tune out of them there at the moment, and they're pushing for playoffs. But what we do know is Welling went there and gave them a really good match, and as I said, teams at the bottom are just as competitive as the teams at the top and playing for a lot of things, and that's what we've got to make sure that we focus on, is that we understand the threats and the dangers they might have, but also we know we've got threats and dangers of our own, and we've got to accentuate those and really bring those to the front so that they're worried about us more so than we are of them. So we wish Hampton and Mel all the best in their playoff trying to get into the playoffs rather, but that'll be after the game for sure, and making sure that we stamp our authority on the game.
And finally, Aaron, without asking you to name any starting lineup, how are things looking and trending squad-wise? Do you envisage any selection issues?
One or two took a knock in the game against Tonbridge. Aaron Downes took a knock to his knee when he collided with the keeper, with the chance we're talking about. So he's been assessed as we speak, and has been this week. We just have to let it settle down. Austin is still probably not available for this weekend. We got good news with a meeting he had with a specialist this week, and we feel that's not going to be long at all. Dan Martin trained today, so we'll see where he's at, but he's still recovering, and there's still a bit of tenderness in there, so we'll see where he's at, but Dan Martin's close to being back, and that's pretty much it really in the injury front. We're pretty strong elsewhere. There's not too many others. Obviously, Finley Krask, who we've talked about, will not be available. So touch and go with one or two, but Austin we may not see.
Brilliant. Thank you, Aaron, and the best of luck for Saturday.
Thank you very much, and thank you to everyone who's going to come along.